victory and the agony of defeat.
Great ball around the corner, Petticini. He beats them all. Junior Polar out wide, bumped away from Trindle. Sharks coming through. None of them can hold this.
Whew. Well, good evening, good night. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a live edition of the Tip Sheet Podcast, Absolute Insanity in the NRL. And here to try and delve into the chaos, get the heart rates back down to something that is remotely functional and not going to get us going to the cardiologist tomorrow. I'm your host, John, also known as 4020. Joining me, as you can see, the big fella, Craig, 60s, and special guest, Chris Ricketts, all the way from Chicago, Illinois. He's here to join us and talk some Parramatta Eels after, where do you begin with this game, guys? I was saying to Craig, I adored what the Eels did to find a way to victory here. Amidst everything that is wrong with 2026 in the product and the way the game is called. And I say the way the game is called because I thought Liam Kennedy actually had a pretty reasonable game as the referee here. Just the general interpretation of the game. I love what the Eels did. I hated that game. I hated it. I don't know what the two teams are going to be doing for their diagnosis and their review, but I'm sure the Eels will try and find the positives, but there's clearly some stuff we need to work on defensively. But boys, before I keep rambling on, thank you for joining me. Thank you to chat for coming in. We had a lot of people in the waiting room waiting for us to go live and already climbing up towards 100 viewers right now, which is fantastic at 10:22 at night on Friday. How you boys doing? How's the Hearts?
John, what are you talking about with the Hearts? That it was never in doubt.
I got an essay from you. I got an essay from Mr. 60s at halftime with his concerns about the performance, and he was right. He was right. I got a text essay, and some way, somehow, the boys rose above. A lot of drama in this one as well in Golden Point, Chris. One of the most unique endings to a game I've ever seen, where the Eels had the game won from the boot of Mitchell Moses, but there was a 0.00001% chance that technically they could have lost that game after kicking the game-winning field goal. If that ball come off the post, it's a live. As far as I understand, it would be a live ball, even though the Eels.
I don't. What would it? Would it? Isn't it the same as an 8-point try? Like it's not live off an 8-point try, isn't it the same?
It was a penalty. Yeah, but it's a penalty goal. So that's if Chris Bettiol's in chat, maybe he's got the rule book handy.
I think Chris is actually up there.
If Chris is in chat on his phone with his rule book in the pocket,
there we go.
Because he's always got his rule book with him. We know he walks around. He's not a card carrying Parramatta fan. He's a rule book carrying Parramatta fan. Let us know. But yeah, Chris Ricketts, the other Chris. We got a few Chris's here actually. I'm sure Chris Hill's here as well. But yes, how you doing, mate? How you doing?
I was so pumped. I was messaging 60s and he just said to me, "Look, do you want to jump on?" I said, "Well, first and foremost, I'm going to have to calm down a little bit because I know you've got a PG rating for this show, and I'm not sure I can sort of dial it down. But honestly, my biggest disappointment is that neither of you guys picked the 3-point Golden Point win in the preview pod. I thought for sure someone would have had that on the docket.
What about me? I said I didn't care how many points Parramatta conceded because we would concede a lot as long as we scored more. And I went for on the preview. From goal, I said take total match points over 61.5. Hello. Yeah. Oh, and before we go any further, Chris, and can I just say, I think my neighbours are well aware of the fact that I've got rid of the language before we start our PG program. They well and truly would have been hearing what I had to say during the game. But we got to thank our sponsors, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Rellan and Parramatta. And, of course, the place that'd be pumping right now up in Sturlos watching the game would be Parramatta Leagues Club, the home of the Eels. Man, that wouldn't have been good to have had a watch party tonight, John. Oh, my goodness, it would have been akin to that Brisbane game.
Yeah. There would have been some screaming among the fan base, I think, in that one, just like, oh, it was that wasn't a normal game. That was even more psychotic than the Brisbane game, that was a good game, the Brisbane game back then, or both the Brisbane games actually. This one was God, I don't know where to begin.
Well, I'll tell you where I'll begin, John. This was the Parramatta Eels minus about 10 players beating a near full-strength Cowboys with Origin players across the park on their home ground in their conditions and beating them at the end of the game when people would have been thinking that the Eels might have been wilting. They got it done. For me, that's all that matters. Well, we can talk about, and we probably will, the technicalities that Parramatta have to fix up, especially in defence, where it looks like there's zero communication on the edges because a lot of those poor misses in defence were the players just weren't in the right spot or made a bad decision with their defensive movement. But you know, you've got to enjoy a win when it comes, especially when it's away from home. It's totally unexpected, and it's based on grit. And I want to send out a message to my good mate Pele. Mate, value added, Pele. That's all I got to say there.
He'll be having an excellent night, won't he?
He'll get the message. He'll get the message. So he's up there. He's up there in Townsville watching Joe Ash. So and I think he's having a wedding anniversary celebration as well while he's up there. So what a way to enjoy your Friday night, fellas. Or what is it for you, Chris?
It's Friday morning. I meant to start work in 30 minutes, but I think as Bob Hawke would say, any employer who sacks someone for turning out late today is a bum.
Oh, classic. Did it feel as, it obviously felt as good when you're half a world away as it does in Australia?
Absolute roller coaster. I mean, it's a 5 a.m. kickoff, which is as good as it gets for me, to be honest. My wife got up for it as well. The kids, unfortunately, were not thrilled when I woke them up by just sort of screaming at the TV, but you got to take the good with the bad. And
Dad's going mental again. Dad's going mental.
It's funny hearing you have the inverse watching schedule for me with the NFL, where that's my time watching a lot of Seattle games. If they're playing East Coast and obviously West Coast, it gets more midday. But it's obviously makes sense because you're an American and I'm watching American games. But yeah, it's funny seeing those things mirrored there. But boys,
now you've got the flag out, Chris. You've got to have the flag out the front flying.
I didn't have time, so it's going up as soon as we finish up here. So I'll take a photo and send it over today. It's
beautiful.
A hell of a day.
It'll go up on the socials, mate. So yeah, make sure you get it out there. John, I think the stat which says it all for the win is the completion rate. What did we come in at?
43 or 47 in the tropics. It was 73% humidity on the weather report I saw. It felt like it was 24, felt like it was 26. And the Eels were at 91% completion rate, which is outstanding. Like in any game, that's outstanding. And if anything, it's funny that like all the defensive issues they had, and there were plenty, we're going to talk about that. The fact that they're able to maintain their focus and offense in a weird way, it's almost even more impressive. Like I'm not saying it's good, but it's impressive that they held clarity with the ball in hand, because if they even momentarily stumbled offensively, they were going to get the Queen's put from there with the Cowboys. So they had to lock in on at least one side of the ball, and they did. 91% completion rate. And yeah, we scraped home on the back of some stunning efforts in the final 10 minutes, and Mitchell Moses come to life in that period and in Golden Point. But full credit to the lads there. That is 110% effort right there on offense at least.
And if we can get people starting to put in their 3-2-1s as well, I know it's early in the podcast.
Mentally put them in. Don't put them in now because I can't go through all the comments. I won't be able to.
Yeah, okay. My apologies.
Yeah. Mentally start clocking, and then when Craig says release the Kraken, you can let him go later in the pod.
Well, that'll have to be. You're going to have to come up with a stinger for that, John. Release the Kraken, which in our podcasts, the instant reaction will mean put your 3-2-1s in. So
look,
we'll leave that. But mate, the reason that I suddenly said, look, get your 3-2-1s ready. Can we talk about Jordan Samrani?
There's a few Eels that deserve individual mentions, and I think at the top of the list it might just be the Ibis, because he came in the hot hand from New South Wales Cup fellas. He'd gone for 200 metres in that game and set up a couple of tries for Devonta Vivella. Comes in here at right centre, 25 carries, 250 metres, 2 line breaks, a try assist to Josh Papali in the clutch. That was one to tie the game there. 4 tackle breaks. And then defensively, in a night where there were plenty of missed tackles, out on the edges, 9 tackles, 1 missed, 1 ineffective. So pretty tidy there. There were, again, what you happen to try. And a try, you're right. And he also set up the first try for Brian Kelly too. So he set up a couple of tries, scored a try, huge game back. And I know you can talk about some of the tackles that, not just him, but some, you mentioned how sometimes players don't get credit for anything if they're not near the ball when it happens. I think that late in the game, that right edge got caught a little bit short, and it wasn't so much his fault, but a very good effort, a very good effort. In fact, I'm not sure what more he could do. He was outstanding in that game.
Yeah, Chris, my reason I'm mentioning him is it's like things happen around him or things happen for him. And in games where there's split-second decisions that are made, he just seems to come up with the right decision. And it was even like when he set up Joash for that try, and he made that veering run back in field so that Joash could come on the outside of him. So he made that step back on the inside for his own try. And it was reminiscent of the try that he set up when he got injured way back. Who was that against that he scored? Was that the Dragons?
I think it was the Dragons game, wasn't it?
Yeah, and again it was when he stepped back in field to pass inside,
round 3,
and then it was that did the damage to the knee. But man, he just is playing some confident football. And this is the moment where both of you say to me, ease up, Craig, because you know what happens when you start praising
the
players.
Mockers,
the mockers go on.
There is a greater curse at play right now that might be trumping anything you say. So the Eels under the cloud of some sort of black magic when it comes to injuries. So maybe you can't put the mockers on this year, hopefully.
Maybe it's just my support, John, that puts the mockers on. I don't know. But, Chris, Jordan Samrani.
Unbelievable. And, he's got that role as a utility player over the last couple of years, and he sort of can play a bit of centres and a bit of back row. But he's come in this year, and I know he's been injured for the last few weeks, but he's come in this year, and I think there's a pretty good argument to be made that at full strength, he's one of our starting centres. I mean, on the basis of today, it's impossible to argue with. He gets through so much work. He doesn't look like he's the quickest player, but you know what? When Mitch went down that short side play and Samrani, as you mentioned, Craig, he came back in and put Joash away in the corner. He showed a good turn of pace. He had a clean set of heels and off he went. So, look, I don't think he lets us down in the attack. He's defensively sound. He makes good reads, and he gets through a mountain of work coming out of our own end. So I think the Ibis, I don't know if there's an Ibis noise we can put as a stinger, but my God, what an incredible game. And you love having him back in the team because he just does good things. He just does his job.
Maybe it's time to come up with a different nickname for him now that we've lost the fella who named him in Lomax.
Yeah, but some nicknames are forever though, aren't they? And I think the boys might have latched onto that one. So look, if we get something good out of Kellyville from the boys that bleeds out to the fans, then I'm happy to rename him. But unfortunately, when it comes to nicknames, we'll see what inquiries
we can make about the nickname there. But an amazing performance from him. And Ronald Volkman had a couple of key breaks as well. That chip kick ahead for the Fox. The Fox with those couple of tries that he scored, having that elite pace on the wing, that really can be a difference maker, can't it?
Well, I'll tell you what about the Fox. The fact that of all the players, he was sucking them in during that game tells you how bad the conditions were, because he is regardless of team fitness levels, he is always a fit individual, and he was like really through that. But he had a great game, great combination with Volkman. Again, defensively, there's some stuff you can talk about with that left edge. They had issues with communication, Craig and Chris, but you got to give your daps on offense, and Volkman's really come to life consistently in offense, and even before the Dearden injury, he was causing them some issues, but it took us a little bit of time to get there, but they had an injured guy they couldn't get off the field. Go attack him, and they did. So it took them some time to get to that point, but I think it might have been some colourful words from the coach via walkie-talkie, maybe they got them there, but they went after it, and Volkman was directing it all. And unfortunately, there were two tries that probably, I'm not going to say went begging, Craig and Chris, but he had two line breaks. One where he probably could have passed the Fox inside, but he tried the chip to, was it Talon de Silva? Someone was deep infield. And the kick was on, but probably had to go a bit earlier. Should have just passed the Fox. And the second time, he backed his wheels and just cramped the Fox in the sideline. They did a good job taking the tackle, which then set up, I think, a Moses attempt at field goal or something. But he's offensively having a great game. Like you said, that heads-up kick for the Fox was excellent. So, look, opportunities, they come to you in awkward times, some ways. But Volkman he's making a bit of a fist of it here. And obviously there's some other considerations long-term about who's going to play 5'8", but he's saying to the coaching staff that he's not going to go down without a fight.
Chris, we've just mentioned some backs there. Any forwards stand out with their performance for you?
Well, Jono just mentioned opportunities, and Talon took his with two arms in two hands and didn't let go. So obviously Riley Smith out with the sternum injury, maybe 2 to 3 week injury, and De Silva comes in, gets 80 minutes. I think he got 80 minutes. I didn't see him go off.
He is credited for, where is he? Talon, 82 minutes because he played Golden Point. There you go.
Okay, 82 minutes. Yeah, so gets the full game. Didn't let anyone down. I think one thing, sometimes his service can be a bit slack compared to Riley Smith, but his service was sharp.
It was sharp today, wasn't it? Yeah, and I don't know. Is that just the difference between starting and playing dummy half? He just locks in a little bit more. I don't know. But
this was the best game he's played for us, and I know that he had a couple of
line breaks.
He came up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd they go defensively? He went 36 tackles, 8 missed, which does lead the team defensively in missed tackles there. But I was watching late in the game. There were some solid efforts trying to slow down Taumalolo in his second stint. So, look, obviously you don't want to see the 8 missed tackles, but when you're playing 82 minutes in those conditions, and he'd taken a bumper offensive load as well, there is some mitigating factor there. But yeah, I thought on the balance of things, Chris, it's a great shout out. I had him tipped for FTS, Craig. Didn't quite get there. He got there shortly after, unfortunately, which there was no money on the line, just our glory. But I thought he was very, very important to the win here. And in terms of other forwards, take your pick here, because I know Chat's been pumping up young Tony Mattielli. I thought that this might be a coming-of-age game for Tony, because the whole sequencing between what happened here, where he played a solid game against Manly, he was actually pretty nice off the bench there, gets, again, cut's probably the wrong word, but squeezed out the week after, goes back to Reggie's, plays maybe his career best game in Reggie's against the Warriors, 200 metres, 2 tries, nearly gets a third, outstanding game, fights his way back into contention to put out 122 metres from 10 carries and a couple of tackle busts and some tidy defensive numbers as well. Where are they? 20 tackles, 0 miss, 0 ineffective on the first pass from the statisticians there. Really important stint from him. And we've been waiting as fans for Tony to arrive for a while. And in saying that, it's a reminder that the quick path to first grade isn't always the best path to first grade for these guys. And not too dissimilar to one of our favourite players in the past, in Murata Niokore, a bit of workman, a bit of an apprenticeship or, doing some trade work in New South Wales Cup can really help. And I'm hoping that this is the making of young Tony. And he still is young. He's not a baby anymore, but he's still a young player. And you look at the rest of the pack, I thought Junior was a much needed injection to the game from the bench. 18 carries, 170 metres. He did some good defensive work as well. Jack Williams came to life late in that game. 13 carries, 150 metres, had some really important carries towards the back end of it. Luca Moretti had a pretty reasonable opening stint, probably one of our better forwards in the initial exchanges. So you just look across the... And even, as maligned as he was from last week, and again, there were issues defensively here, And I'm not going to look past that because there were some tries scored in and around both he and Moses. But Kelma Tuolangi had an important 151 metres down the edge. So, yeah, you got some good production defensively from all those guys. Saxon Pride came on late in the game, 18 tackles, 1 missed, 60 metres nearly off the bench. Not, glory numbers, but important stints. So, yeah, across the park, I thought the forwards toiled hard. Obviously, defensively, there is across the park there is a lot to work on, but they all contributed, and there were few and far silly mistakes this week, which again goes back to that 91% completion rate. So, yeah, at least on one side of the ball, a lot to like from the forwards, but in particular, I think Tony Mattelli stands out to me, boys.
Yeah, Tony, and this is my take on it, Chris. What I like most of all about him was he brought the impact with the carry. Because he's got the size, he used his size in the way that he took the ball into the defence.
Fast play the balls, great contact.
Yeah, I think maybe in the message that I sent to you at halftime, John, where I was running down all the issues that we were facing, and I was amazed that we were only 2 points down. I think I said that I was concerned about the lack of impact that we were making, and that was both in attack and defence, that there was far too many times when the Cowboys were making easy meters or they were standing in the tackle and being able to offload. It was almost like in defence that we were attempting a catch and hold type defence rather than taking them to the ground. And we were just constantly on the back foot. It was a miracle that we were hanging in there to like 2 tries apiece at half time. But Tony Mattelli, what he was able to do was to bend that defence a little bit more, to bring a bit of hurt into his carries. And I think that went a long way. Just the stats read well, but for me it was seeing that impact that he brought that impressed me the most.
Great call from Michael in chat too, and I was watching this with my dad and my brother, and I caught it. We all caught it, obviously. I'm not trying to take any claim here, but huge shout out to Junior too. He saved the game. Fingertips on the Clifford drop kick that made it hit the post. Like, you talk about a game of inches, game of millimeters, right there.
Yep.
Big June's getting out onside from marker to put pressure on the kick and get fingertips on the ball to force it to hit the posts with 40 seconds left in the game, whatever it was.
Yeah, and that's the when you talk about winning moments or a real effort play, that exemplified it, and it showed how a moment like that can define a game. And I'd been upset a little bit before that. And when I say upset, it's easy for me sitting in the lounge at home with a drink when these players are playing in tropical conditions and they're gassed, absolutely gassed. But when I'm trying to think who it was that scored the try, was it Purdue? The one where Joash brought him down just in front of the post, but he came free of the tackle. Chester. Okay. So when that happened, we had some players who were running back, but they were sort of jogging back on side. And when that tackle brought him to the ground, because no one was really chasing hard, he had that opportunity to get up and go again. And as I said, it's easy enough for me to say that because I'm not there in those conditions, putting in effort on effort, but Junior was. And just getting himself into that position and giving everything that he had to get his hand on the ball just to deflect it enough. And then it just hits the posts, and you have to wonder how easily it might have sailed between the posts without that touch.
And I'm just going through moments in the game now. This game features some crazy field goal moments because we talked about the Junior deflection. Obviously, Mitchell Moses wins the game with a cracking kick that was inches away from him getting Lachlan Ilias and having his leg split in two with the aerial challenge that had no control, which should have been a send-off. But then at halftime, Moses kicked a 2-point field goal that was ruled to be out of play because Sean Russell was slowed down in the ruck and fractionally couldn't get the ball off, which again, the gamesmanship on those whistles should be an instant penalty, regardless of whether it's Parramatta involved or not. But yeah, that could have been a 2-point field goal because he smashed that field goal. He drilled that. It was one of the sweetest field goals he's probably ever struck. So this game had some really crazy field goal moments.
Minimal penalties too. Like it ended up 4-0 to
Yeah,
Parramatta.
well, that's probably why.
And one of those was that one right at the end of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably why the fatigue was so high on both teams, because as much as the Eels were struggling, the Cowboys were struggling too. Like we missed 43 tackles. They missed 34, I think, a palindrome. So there were 77 missed tackles in this game. And
well, we did talk about in the preview podcast that both teams aren't renowned for defence. There will be a lot of missed tackles. There'll be a lot of points scored. So,
we got some great comments coming in chat. And shout out to Mark in chat here saying that the last time 33-30 happened was a Holden Cup game. Holden Cup. So we're going back to the old under-20s between Brisbane and the Bulldogs. And we always talk about scorigami, the word that everyone loves, when it's a unique scoreline. So this obviously isn't scorigami. It's happened before. But the referee that day, Liam Kennedy. So well done, Mark, on digging through the annals of history there. So that's a bit of refagami right there. What? Hello? Like,
forget about it.
Reality is stranger than fiction. Like seriously, like that is crazy. Peter's saying 54 missed tackles.
How he thought about looking
tackle breaks
that up and finding that detail.
Peter, you must be using a different, and again, there's different channels for the stats, but NRL Portal has 43 missed tackles for the Eels to 34, 13 ineffective to 8. So it's different companies will grade stats differently, but yeah, that's where they're at.
Yeah, so, yep.
Can I just say, this game had it reminded me a lot of the 2022 prelim. Obviously different stakes attached to it, but from a momentum perspective, and you mentioned Tony Mattiello there, 60s. Obviously, that day it was Reg who had the big game. I felt like today it was Tony who was bending them back over the advantage line. In that 2022 prelim, it looked like we were gone for all money several times in that match, and we just stuck around, hung around, and then at the end of the game, we came over the top of them, which is pretty incredible given A, the injuries, but B, the fact we're not used to playing in those conditions. And in fact, when we have played in these kind of tropical climates before that, no one wants to talk about Darwin anymore. But if you think about those Darwin games, that was a disaster for us almost every year. So we've historically been very poor up there in the top end. And yeah, it felt a lot like the 2022 prelim. I can't quite believe we won the game, but it's winners are grinners. I'm glad we did.
Chat's on fire. Jim, who he's been doing it tough in terms of how the Eels been performing lately, and he's always turned out in chat and being mostly pretty fair. Says, hey, week after the coach gives a little spray at the referees, hey, we get some stuff going our way. And look, I'll say both teams had calls go for and against them this one. I think it's pretty fair to say both teams scored a play after a forward pass. Talon De Silva's try came one play after he threw a pretty marginal pass in front of the post, and I think the long range try where Jackson Purdue scored a play after had a pretty questionable ball in the lead up down that right edge of the Cowboys. But yeah, I'm sure both teams could circle moments I would like to have back in terms of calls, but the Cowboys blew their challenge early. That was a terrible challenge. I
loved it.
I was like, that was Sun Tzu in action there. Don't get in the way of the enemy when they're making a mistake. Like, yeah, let them make the challenge, please. And then from that point, and look, all the ruck calls in terms of the lost ball that went against them, I think they were probably the right call. So I don't know if the challenge would have helped them much. But, yeah, it would, look, and that's twice now for Liam Kennedy where the Eels have gotten, I would say, a fair rub of the green. Like, not being favoured, but, we're getting some 50-50s. You get some 50-50s against you. That's rugby league right there. And it's funny that he was the first ref to be maligned and dropped because of that Titans game in round 3, I think it was, round 2 maybe, where he blew 27 indiscretions across 6 agains and penalties. But he's been great for us. I could take more Liam Kennedy games every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, I could have said we got lucky with the tackle on Dearden.
Yeah, that's going to be the controversial one, I think, because if you're a Cowboys fan, you'll be banging for a sin bin. that tackle, and I'm just looking. I got the GIF over here on the left in my browser. That tackle was the one that when they were talking about what can players do for hip drops, that was the one that was always spoken about. It's a line break. You're trying to save a try. Both players made contact up high. They didn't drop down. Like their body weight came onto Dearden Viva legs, but they didn't drop down to the hip and anchor off the hip, which is by definition the key indicator for a hip drop. So if you're a Cowboys fan, I can understand why you'll be upset about that. If you're a neutral fan, I think there's going to be people on both sides of the column there. If you're a Parramatta fan, I think you're breathing a sigh of relief, but also maybe saying, I don't think it's unfair to say common sense prevailed. It's a tough one. I mean, Brad's saying it was definitely a penalty in his opinion. Again, I don't think you're wrong in saying that, Brad. It's going to be one that will divide a lot of people. They anchored off the upper body, which is again a pointer away from a hip drop, and by virtue of tackling from behind, they didn't have much recourse but to land on the back of Tom Dearden. But this will be one that the media are going to follow up with 100%. I'm sure Todd Payton will be fuming in his presser, and I'm not going to judge him for that one because, again, this is going to have people on both sides of the aisle. But I imagine on Monday, when there's some clarity about what sort of injury Dearden has picked up and the impact on State of Origin and the Cowboys, there'll be plenty of articles to provide fuel for the fire either way. Chris Craig is he's popping off on the phone right now, so I'll throw it over to you. Thoughts on the tackle? Should the Fox or I think it was Joash was the other tackler there. Should they be worried about MRC?
Well, firstly, have a look at Craig. I mean, he looks like Luna Park down there with the size of that smile on his face. But
I was just getting a call from Townsville. That was all. So, and we've got people up there too, because beside the phone call that I just got, then it was we've got Roly Poly Eel is up there, also known to us as Shay, and also Chris is up there.
Yep. As
well. So, TCT's represented up there in Townsville. So, as you said, you can't wipe the smile off my face, mate. This is brilliant. And this is brilliant.
It should be said, and there's a lot of obviously celebration and chat, and we're having a lot of fun here. As concerning as that game was for a lot of different mechanics, and when you diagnose what happened in this game, and as good as the Eels did hold on to the ball, as bad as they were defensively. At the end of the day, the Cowboys came into this one winning 6 or 7. Like, they were one of the form teams, and it was a crazy game that had some really weird circumstances, but the Eels found a way. And I was thinking to myself in the second half that I'm not sure if this was going to be a win you could build on. But again, you go back to just getting the win and just the confidence that can come from this. And obviously, we're now sweating on Mitchell Moses, and if his foot's picked up some sort of injury, and the MRC could be a factor for those two plays that we're talking about with the Dearden tackle. We'll have to wait and see. And I do want to give a shout out, Brad and Chap mentioning that Payton did not complain in the presser about the tackle, which as a coach, it's very easy to do that. So I massive respect for Payton, especially because
Well, what did Serraldo do last night? First thing.
Yeah, well, like I said, complaining about refs, it's a tactical weapon you need to do, and Serraldo wasn't in the position to do that, whereas I think Riles has been, and that's the difference there. You can't complain about him every week because that then completely cheapens the tactic. It is a tool in the coach's repertoire, and right now Serraldo's got bigger issues. But yeah, credit to Payton. But we went on this road trip, Craig, and in our previous podcast, Chris, we made a point of the season. It's not lost, and obviously it takes a very optimistic Eel or Parramatta fan to say that we're going to be genuine finals contenders, but the season's not lost yet. But you're going on a 2-leg Queensland road trip, and I know it's a home game, but it's in Brisbane for Magic Round. You got to have one of those 2 games, and ideally 2, because then you head into the bye, and on the other side of the bye, there's half a dozen quality reinforcements coming back for you. They're gonna, if everyone stays fit and guys like Tony Mattiello keep performing, some great questions to be asked about team composition. But they had to have 1 win. They got it, and now they can start thinking about a second win. And I know it's Melbourne. I know it's Magic Round, the 2 things that have been so toxic for the Parramatta fandom across the last half a decade. But this is the kind of weird year. Maybe this is the year where we can get it done there. And this win will have them, again, they're not going to be assuming. They're not going to say, "Hey, we're undefeatable now," but it's a big win. It's a big win, and the way Melbourne are
Is that a
playing,
word, undefeatable?
it is now. It is now.
When you win, we just make up your own lexicon. John.
What's Merriam-Webster say? Well, the Rhyme Zone has something there. There you go. It's a martial arts film in 1993, Hong Kong, directed by Godfrey Ho, using the synonym Godfrey Hall. So it's in. Oh, hang on, it's in Merriam-Webster. We're clear.
Okay.
Etymology is un plus defeat. So there you go.
I should have known better than to question the wordsmith of the Cumberland throw.
Incapable of being defeated or of accepting defeat. And you know what? That was the Parramatta Eels today. They refused to accept defeat. So well done to the boys in that regard. There was a lot of ticker shown, a lot of raw and rough corner shown as well. But Jesus, you cannot be upset at the effort levels today, because that was between the completion rates and just the desperation. It meant that they were able to at least partially overcome some of the lapses in other areas or deficiencies in other areas. And for a team that's just ravaged by injury, the combinations are not settled. And again, defensively, the Eels have so much to work on, but don't undersell the impact, not just of the injuries directly, because you're losing a quality player being replaced by a replacement level player, but the fact that it pulls apart the synergies, the combinations, the understandings in each of those positional groups, in each of those ruck alignments, whether it's left, middle, or right. And you're seeing that right now. And I think I haven't seen the presser guys, we're obviously live, but I saw in chat that that some people are saying that Riles feels again that the defensive lapses are happening at an individual level, not a systemic level. And I think by and large that's probably true. I think that defensively the Eels maybe have a couple of times in a game where you can point to some system stuff where it's just the alignment's wrong. But most of the issues, I think, are either bad reads or bad communication.
Yeah. It's John, I was just having a bit of a look at last year, and up to round 10 last year, we had 2 wins on the board. So we ended up getting wins in rounds 11 and 12 last year to get up to the 4 wins at that stage. But if the Eels, and this is looking ahead, but if the Eels can pick up next in the Magic round against the Storm and then into the bye, it's not a bad partial recovery on this.
I hate buys on the ladder. It's just such a waste of ladder positioning. So yeah, the Eels on 4 wins. 4 wins. There are a lot of teams that could be on 4 wins at the end of this round. God, there's a lot of teams up high on the ladder that could be on 4 wins at the end of this round. Like right now, Eels on 4 wins lifts them up to they would go ahead of the Titans. Yeah, they go ahead of the Titans, who have only 2 wins, by the way. So the Eels are 4 wins, no bye. So they've actually got a result clear of the Gold Coast, despite that head-to-head loss. They go ahead of the Dogs, although they're equal with the Dogs in terms of points because of the bye. But the Raiders in 12th have 4 wins. The Dolphins in 9th have 4 wins. The Sharks have 4 wins. The Seagulls have 4 wins. I hate buys. Like the ladder is just such a lie right now. Because wins are what counts at the end of the day. The buys, everyone gets their 2 plus 1 bye, so it doesn't make a difference. So, yeah, it's obviously for and against is a big factor for the Eels, and there's plenty of work to be done there. But they're actually right in the midfield of the ladder right now, purely on wins on the board.
Yeah. It's an interesting position for the Eels to be in right now with that result. But I think more than anything else, we needed that win before we play the Storm. I wouldn't have wanted to come. I think the Storm are a chance of winning this weekend against. They're playing the Knights, aren't they? Is that their
Knights
game this weekend?
Sorry, who?
The Storm. Who are they playing this weekend? Was it the Knights?
No, they've got Tigers.
That's right.
Tigers.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. That's why I thought
No dealing.
So it's
because of
the out of form Storm and the injured Tigers now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was trying to remember who they were playing and why I thought they were a chance, and it's the Tigers with an injury issue at the moment. So I think they're a chance of bouncing back. And even if they weren't able to beat the Tigers, I just wouldn't have wanted to go into that game with the monkey on the back of that big loss in round one and being on a run of losses coming into a game with the Storm. I think we needed to get the confidence back into the team, bit of faith in themselves and the bloke alongside them.
Oh.
And this was the best way to achieve that, because make no mistake, the Cowboys have ambitions in this competition, and they've got the strike power that they probably should be doing a little bit better. And but they're a real Jekyll and Hyde team, aren't they? They've got performances full of errors in them, as well as the capacity to play the spectacular. I actually think at the moment they're playing almost a Titans game, what we would normally see from the Titans with their talented back line, where we would always seem to be playing them and playing touch football against the Titans and inviting them to play that sort of football. That was what we were getting from the Cowboys tonight. And it seemed to be that any time they got expansive, we had a problem. Maybe not so much, excuse me, through the middle, but certainly on the edge and then out wide. But, John, I think I agree with Riles. There were defensive decisions that were was a problem.
Yeah, and I felt like I don't know what the boys were looking at times, where the Cowboys were telegraphing where they're going to go, and yet the Eels just weren't. And like they would have overlaps sometimes, but at least force the guy to go to the outside and make the pass. Like that's footy 101, right? Make them make the pass. So yeah, and again, I don't like what I saw in that regard. Some of it can be written off in some capacity, not anywhere near a full wiping of the slate in terms of the injuries and the combinations. Some of it tonight also, again, the field was an ice rink. Like, you needed the old the metal studs out there. Everyone was tripping over. People were coming on with fresh legs. Like, Junior came on and immediately hit a banana peel on Mario Kart. And it was like, you could have put the Benny Hill music or the whoop, 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 whoop sound effect, and it would have like worked equally well. And then, of course, the tropical humidity, because even at this time of the year, it's still mid-20s and 73% humidity, and that all plays a factor. So, offensively, they weren't incredible, but they did find a way to get the points. And I think that as the game went on, they started to find rhythm, and you saw Moses attack the short side. You saw Volkman find confidence in taking on the line. So, good signs there. But, yeah, defensively, that has to be the focus. And I imagine this week and then into the bye, it's going to be hammered by the coaching staff for sure.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think the focus is going to be this week? Is it obviously there's stuff that Riles will want to talk about that he wants to fix, but I think we've got to build on that confidence as well. Like, I think there has to be a celebrating what they did well and build on that. And yes, you've got to address those problems, but I think it's that aspect of confidence and the belief in themselves is a huge part of what the Eels have to be able to achieve right now, because we know that there's blokes that are playing that have limited experience, and it comes down to, I guess, believing that they belong there at this grade and not thinking, oh, well, there's a mistake of, and getting too harsh on themselves or harsh on the bloke next to them or what have you. I just hope this goes towards building deeper bonds out on the field. We know they're a connected team as a group, but out on the field, I want that bond to be even stronger. And I think that would start to show in things like communicating out on the field and combinations and and just being able to build on tonight.
Yeah. Some of the combinations we have out there would have been, and 60s, you would know this better than anyone, wouldn't have been the combinations we would have worked on in the preseason. I think, even as much as the halves, Ronnie Volkman and Mitch weren't the first choice halves there. And then if you look at our centres, it's patched together. In terms of what they're going to work on, I mean, we're conceding 30 points a game. So obviously, I'm sure the lads are working on defence pretty heavily. But we're getting killed in the ruck each week. That's probably the area where it's hardest. I think if I look at the average play the ball speed, it ended up being pretty close. I think it was 3.38 seconds.
That happens every week. I don't know how, because that's not what the eye is saying. And maybe the Eels are just winning a couple of really fast play the balls as outliers that bring down, and maybe the median numbers point towards a different story, Chris. But it feels like we're getting absolutely smoked in the ruck consistently, and yet the numbers don't say it. But in terms of those rucks, one player we didn't mention, guys, he had off a errant pass in Golden Point, had a 25-metre carry from our own quarter that put us in position to make that field goal. Brian Kelly had a big moment there in that game. And you know what? There were some strips that...
He had a good game.
There were some strips that came out towards Parramatta's way. We found a way to possess him off his lost ball. But in totality, he had a pretty good game. So, again...
John, what did I say? What did I say?
You've been keyed on to the fact that teams are going after his carries and anchoring or betting against the referee making a call. And tonight, Liam Kennedy made the course. He made the course every time. Without us having the challenge, Liam Kennedy said no. It was a strip. And look, I think the first one was it Griffin Neem who made the first strip. I thought that was maybe a little bit fortuitous. That was one of those 50-50s that went towards us. But there were some other pretty clear strips on him that ended up with us. I think Sam Roney cleaned one up as well. And you know what? You take it. And Kelly, nearly 200 metres. Addo Carr, 160 metres. Joe Ash at the back, 120 metres. So Sean Ross, the only back not to go over 100 metres, and he got to 93. So, and look, I think Rusty's still not near his best, and he might be, if everyone was fit, the odd man looking into the team with the way Sam Roney's playing, because I think that Will's probably had a better season than Russell. But again, you're talking about that left edge specialty as well. But big efforts, and it goes back to that ruck, Chris, where I don't know, we lose the general ruck, but then we found a way to get the big moments in the ruck, which I guess was enough tonight.
Just on Kelly, I've been saying he's got to be in the tip sheet for opposing teams, and therefore maybe also in the refs tip sheet for the preparation that they do. But maybe, just maybe, Liam Kennedy might have picked up in his study that teams are taking the odds on a strip on Kelly to get away with it. I even wondered, that one that you said was maybe a bit fortuitous, John, whether there was two in the tackle.
There was definitely
true, because he ruled, because it was quick blink of an eye stuff. He ruled that it was 1-1, one on one, not 1-1. But yeah, maybe with a challenge, the Eels, they got the scrums, they probably weren't too upset, but maybe with a challenge, it might have shown that there was a second defender active in the play.
And also before, Chris, you said about how much prep they would have done for the combinations and where players are playing. Let's take Joe Ash for a start. Joe Ash spent pretty much the entire pre-season training at 5'8", and with Pezzett there was he was getting a rotation in where he would go to 5'8" and Pezzett would go to halfback. So that was preparing for any matches without Moses. So Joe Ash was basically the first drop 5'8" for the season. I think Ronald Volkman, I'm just trying to think from memory whether he might have had an injury at the start of the preseason. I have it in my head that he wasn't there at the start of the preseason and for chunks of the preseason. It could be wrong. So you've got that as the first example of a player being out of position. We expected Jordan Samrani, based on last year, to be transitioning towards being an edge forward, but he was in the outside backs all through the pre-season. So that was something that worked for him. But the bloke that was all over the place in the outside backs was Sean Russell, because he'd sometimes be on the wing, sometimes in centre, and on opposite sides of the field. So he was one that probably was a little bit moved around in that. But, Joash, from memory, didn't get any time at fullback in the pre-season. So I'm sure...
Oh, that's on me, guys. Hang on, are we dropping frames?
Fullback.
Oh.
But...
Sorry, guys.
Sam Rani putting his hand up to say,
that was crazy.
I deserve a place in the team.
No, it's me. It's me. Sorry about the internet, guys.
John.
Yeah, no. The internet's... I'm dropping frames now. Yeah, I can see it. Just let us navigate this for 1 second. Sorry, chat. Yeah, sorry, guys.
Craig, I'm with you there. Craig, it's a next man up mentality, isn't it? I think all these guys have been playing out of position, and Joash is a player who I've loved having in the side. I think if you look at a guy whose efforts and doesn't let anyone down, I don't want to be too cynical, but I don't think he's the player that Yongi is. Yongi's, I think, clearly the future of our club at fullback, or at least for the next few years. But Joash is a more than able replacement. I think he's been fantastic in what he's done for us. So, as a guy that can play a bit of one, bit of six, and come in and do both jobs based on the need for the club, I think he's been a very astute acquisition over the last couple of seasons for us. And the energy he brings, and as a good teammate, just unparalleled almost.
It's almost like he's the captain of inspiration.
He's
the captain of energy. Jack Gibson used to have different captains for different aspects of the game back in the 80s, and if you allocated different players for different roles, I think Joash should come in as the captain of inspiration or energy or something like that. He may well, through his efforts, be putting his hand up for consideration for the 5/8 role when Isaiah comes back. You've got Ronald Volkman doing a very good job there, but equally you've got the bloke who trained to be 5/8 all through the pre-season. You've got the complication, of course, is Pezzett, who's John. He's suspended, I believe, for the week.
AJ was he gave me a tip on Tuesday, and I'm sure Chris, who's in chat now, can confirm. I think it's a 1 week suspension for Pezzett with the hip drop tackle. He was training during the week, Pezzett, so it wasn't a matter that he was injured and wasn't able to play. So, well, didn't appear to be anyway. But that gives Riles a bit of choice in a couple of weeks' time what he's going to decide to do. So, look, I'll tell you what, the one thing you really have to give praise to Joash for is the high kicks that he... Oh, my internet.
But he was relatively safe under the high ball today. And in fact, the Eels really did a good job in that regard. And that's something that...
No stupid escorts. No stupid escorts.
Yeah.
Isn't it wonderful when you don't give away cheap penalties at the end of sets? What happens?
Well, this is, I think, again, let's give the match official a bit of praise. And we're not issuing that praise just because the Eels won. But much like that game against the Bulldogs, the influence of the match official was minimal, so that you didn't have to look at moments in the game where you go, well, that's a dodgy decision. I know the Cowboys were fuming about the supposed non-knock-on by Purdue
That was a knock-on.
late in the game, but that was he clearly lost the ball.
Cooper Cronk didn't help with his commentary there, trying to say, I don't know nothing happened there. He clearly bobbled the ball on the first gather.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I can see it from here.
John, are you ready to
unleash the Kraken?
Unleash the Kraken, yeah. Yes. Let's unleash the Kraken, because I think given the time that that we've hit now,
and my internet on the fritz for whatever reason, it keeps bobbling in and out of a drop frame status. But yeah, guys, let's.
Chris needing to get to work. Yeah. Chris needing to get to work. I've got a 4 a.m.
Don't worry about it.
I've got like a 4:30 a.m. drive to the airport tomorrow morning.
Yes, to see the better half off, and then we've got double duty tomorrow because Flegg and Cup are in action at Kellyville, and we'll be covering those games as always, which is going to be a lot of fun. It's always a lot more fun when you have the big comeback win. So, Chris, by the way, Chris Bettiol in chat saying that as far as he understands that, given that it was a foul play sequencing, that the ball would have been dead in the event that it hit the posts. So I was saying to him that those really weird and quirky rules moments that happen in the game once in a blue moon, always super fun to see. A little less fun when it could have potentially cost the Eels an incredible comeback win. So thankfully, as far as we understand, that would have been a dead ball there. But yeah,
that's what I was sure it was like an 8-point try.
Yes,
it's like a conversion penalty.
Yes.
It's
and because like the funny thing would have been, I don't think you can deliberately miss the penalty either, because there are provisions, the rules to stop you from kicking to the side, like towards the sideline, to try and score a try off a penalty goal. So if the referee, and I'm sure you could just spray it and he'd say, no, I just kicked it bad. But the referee, if he deemed that you were taking a deliberate miss, could have some sort of call against you in that regard too. But good to see it was a dead ball, or as far as I understand, a dead ball.
And the ref was at pains to explain to Moses, because Moses was thinking that the field goal wasn't going to count. And he was at pains to explain to him, no, you're going to get a chance for an extra 2 points, 2 points.
By the way, someone in chat, was it Neil maybe? And Neil also pointing out that in terms of challenges, I don't know if you guys saw it, but Peter Goff had an absolute Barry Crocker at the end of the game before ours, where Reece Robson very clearly bobbled the ball at knee height, picking up from the base of the scrum. He ruled it was knocked on. But he also mentioned, Neil, I think it was, and forgive me if I got it wrong, but that Liam Kennedy is almost the anti-Peter Goff for us. And I was just checking, and it's a tiny sample size. But right now, under Liam Kennedy, the Eels have played 7 games, 5 wins, 2 losses. So he is the anti-Peter Goff for us.
Oh, let's not talk too much about that.
No one tell the NRL about that. No one tell the NRL. So let him keep.
This is just a little secret amongst ourselves on
exactly.
TCT.
That's a inner sanctum blue and gold secret right there. But yeah, guys.
Also, didn't Peter? Who called the? Who was in the bunker in that game with the Roosters with the try that was scored?
Oh my
right
God, the Robert Toyer try. Yeah, the first Robert Toyer try. Someone had money on Robert Toyer as an ATS right there. I'm telling you. But that was a terrible call. And I know that they've amended the rule to have the separation of the forearm still counting as downward pressure, but he lost the ball and had to regrip. That was a clear lost ball needing to regrip possession. It was Adam G. So yeah, and I think G got it right in the second instance with the Tupou bat back, where
yes,
that was common sense prevailing, because he was an active participant in the play. He wasn't like someone just loitering around in the defensive line. That was fine, but Toyer dropped that cold. Terrible call. And I mean, I don't think it changes the game too much, but terrible call.
Yep. So the 3-2-1. This is going to be interesting, John. Have we got some 3-2-1s coming in already?
Well, are you trying to stall and trying to see where you want to go if you're 3-2-1? Is that what's happening here? Hey?
No. I'm afraid that if by the time we talk through ours, that the scrolling back that you'll have to be will be
good shout.
Insane.
We start with I think it's Dave. Yeah, Dave Lander. He goes 3 for the Ibis, 2 for Volk, and 1 for Tony. Also mentions TDS saying he was strong, but also like pointing out the 8 missed tackles. Completely fair, Dave. I think that's reasonable. Beaker, who had some great comments tonight, saying 3 for Sam Ronnie, 2 for Volkman, 1 for Towan. We've got Phil, 3 for the big man Sam Rani, 2 for Volkman, 1 for Towan. Mark Johnston saying 3 for Samrani, 2 for Mattielli, 1 for De Silva. Jaden Walters going 3 for the interchange forward. Tony Mattielli, 2 for the Ibis, 1 for Jack DeBellin. Nice shout out for Jack DeBellin too, who continues. is it a redemption arc yet, guys? He's been pretty nice for the last month of football. He's been all right. So we needed him to stand up amidst this injury crisis, and he's doing all right. Michael Formosa.
Role to play.
Yes. Michael Formosa, 3 for Talon, 2 for Samrani, 1 for Mattielli. Andrew Collier says Samrani, De Silva, Mattielli, 3-2-1. We've got Debs going 3 for Samrani, 2 for Mattielli, and then shouting out the rest of the team for the 1 point. And special mention to the referee. Would be great to have him each week. I mean, that's a great 3-2-1 and HM there, Debs, because, yeah, Kennedy, we talk about the way referees interpret games, and if golf is oil and water for us, then Kennedy, clearly there's something working there. Neil says 3 for the Ibis, 2 for Tony, 1 shared with Junior's left hand and Moses' right foot. Great set of votes there, Neil.
Love it.
Mitch says 3 for Samrani, 2 for Mattielli, 1 for Talon de Silva. Ryam says 3 for Samrani, 2 for Volker, 1 for Tony. Bit of a pattern emerging, at least for the 3 points here, and obviously the 2 and 1. There's a couple of other contenders. John McClellan says 3 for Matthew, 2 for Samrani, and 1 for Joash. And then we've got Seb. Good to see you, Seb. 3 for Samrani, 2 for Moses, 1 for Talon de Silva. And then says, not a great game for Moses, but he wins it for us in the clutch. Great point. And look, it's perfectly reasonably critical of Moses in passages of play today. But how good was it seeing him rise to the challenge when it was there to be won? And obviously, we need more from him. But saying that he's still got the ability to win a game, I think it'll be a lot of comfort to a lot of fans right now. So very, very good. And now Chris mentioning that, yeah, you can't do a Mick Cronin anymore in regards to the deliberately missing the penalty goal and being cheeky with the angle of it. Paul says 3 for Samrani, 2 for Talon, 1 for Junior. And then we've got... that's directly from the referee too, by the way. That was the debrief from Liam Kennedy for Chris there. So that's awesome insight, mate. Thanks for that. That's really cool. And then Brent says 3 for Samrani, 2 for Talon, 1 for Mattielli, HMs to Junes, Volkman and Fox. Good votes there. We've got Gonzler saying Samrani, Mattielli and Josh 3-2-1. Phil saying more Kennedy, less Goff. Absolutely. 6 points to Liam from Jamie. But also Jamie with his proper vote saying Samrani, Volkman and Minch's redemption after a poor first half. A lot of great votes here. We've got Matt, the Stork, Samrani, yep, Talon and Joash. Rod says 3 for hope, 2 for never giving up, and 1 for resilience. I love it. Great energy there, Rod. Great energy.
Excellent.
Brad, who says Ibis, Mattielli, Talon de Silva, 3-2-1. Gary, never quit is the paratheme. I sure hope so, mate. I'd love to see more of that from our boys. Rob Halliday says Tony, Jordan, and Ronald from the Mudgee Eel there, 3-2-1. And I think that brings us up to date. And if anyone gets their votes in between now and then, I will give them a quick readout after we go through the boys here. On the back of that torrent of votes, one of the biggest set of votes we've had all season, and for good reason. Fellas, I turn it over to you. The floor is yours. You're 3, 2,
Chris,
1.
You go first, Chris.
Yeah, I'm not going to stray too much from the theme we've already seen. I think the Bird, the Ibis, Jordan Samrani, 3 points for me. What a game. 2 points for Talon de Silva. I know he missed 8 tackles, but the impact on the other side of the ball was fantastic. And, you know, those 8 missed tackles, I think when you're a smaller player, they're not clear-cut missed tackles. I think he's slowing players down. He's helping in the tackle. He's doing some things. And Ronnie Volkman, it looked like he had spiders on him in that second half. They just couldn't tackle him. He's a player that I think is going to really push for a starting berth when we're at full strength. So Ronnie Volkman, great game. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm pumped. I can't wait to watch this next week and crash down to earth. But no, look, those 3 players, we're some amongst a host of great performers. Our defense, needs a bit of work. But in these moments, I think you've just got to really take the good times, because realistically, it's not always easy being a Parramatta fan. So we've really got to enjoy these moments, and I'm going to enjoy today.
Yeah, sounds that's a good shout out there. John, do you want to go next?
Yeah, look.
Or do you want me to go?
I'll go. I'll go. You go. Then I'll get the last few voters that came in after the call for last drinks there. And look, again, like Chris said, you don't overthink these things. And Jordan Samrani, you can't see a path to victory without his huge effort there, both in terms of the involvement and the work rate and the big moments, like you said, Craig. For whatever reason this year, things have been happening around the big man there. The Ibis is or the Stork, as someone said in chat there, he's delivering. You know, he's bringing not babies but points and big moments to the Parramatta Eels right now. And we go 2 points for mine. Again, I look at the narrative behind what came to this point here, and other players obviously could be in the 2 points easily, but what happened to Tony Mattiello in the last 3 weeks, I love what I saw. And that looks like a young man that maybe, and I'm not going to get ahead of myself here, but maybe he's ready to put two hands on a spot in this team. And I love what I saw. In some of the most difficult conditions he's going to get all year, he had a genuine impact off the bench. And then 1 point again, looking at the context behind the play, I'll go Talon de Silva. No dummy half behind him this week, like not even any other recognised dummy half. If he couldn't go the 82 minutes, you're talking about Dylan Walker or Charlie Geimer stepping in, or maybe Arpa Twiddle, something that is not conducive to a path to victory for the Parramatta Eels. And obviously moving forwards, Harrison Edwards can be that guy, which is fantastic. But yeah, again, defensively had some issues, but the Cowboys threw a lot of traffic at him with Jason Taumalolo and company, and offensively dynamic, like just awesome. So a lot to like about that, some stuff to work on for him. And then the honourable mentions across the board. There's so many players you could pick out there. So that's my 3-2-1.
Yeah, I'm going with, I think, a lot what most people are saying. I've got Jordan Samrani at the 3. I started off the podcast by wanting to talk about him straight away. Things are happening around him. He seems to be playing with a lot of confidence, and there's a lot, I think, to like about what he's doing. How good is it when you shout a player out in the preview, Craig, and as best on field potentially, and he delivers? Yes.
Knows his body, this Craig.
Yeah.
Knows his body.
2 points. I'm going to agree again with Tony Mattiello. In the preseason just gone, he had to deal with injury, and he had a slower start to this year than what happened last year. And as we know, he got his debut last year, but I thought he was one of the best in the preseason in Jason Ryle's first preseason with the club. He took a step forward in I think what was going to be an important preseason for him, was eventually rewarded. And I was concerned that injury might have hampered where he could go this year, just simply because he was starting behind the 8 ball and others had that chance to get the jump on him. Certainly injuries created his opportunity this year, but once he's out on the field, he's got that size and the mobility to go with it that I think we need in our pack. And whilst we're looking elsewhere to get someone who's going to be that impact player, he's got a chance to put his hand up and say, don't forget about me. So, yeah, he gets the 2 points. The 1 point, my goodness, I really don't know how I can separate some players there, because you've got Junior.
The golden hand of Junior, the golden boot of Mitchell Moses, all the different efforts that.
Yep. You've got the effort of Talon. I can't ignore what Brian Kelly does each week. And as I said to you, I was really impressed with what Joash did. And as much as I praised that moment where Jordan Samrani came in field to set Joash up, it was also Joash knowing as well, he's coming in, I'm heading out towards the wing to give him the option to get it to me for the try. So they worked so well in unison in that moment. Geez, it's hard to separate all of them. Maybe they get a quarter of a point each, but forced to just go for one. I probably have to go with Talon, simply because there was just 82 really tough minutes where and it was going to come down to between him and Joash too, because it's the same thing. 82 minutes. Who are the players on the field that have to work the hardest in the 82 minutes? It's often the ones that run the most are often the dummy half and the fullback for the meters that they have to cover. But I think I'll have I'll have De Silva just edging ahead of Joash, but special mention to Joash. So, any
last vote getters in, and I'm glad to have him in there as well. Andrew says 3 for Sam Ronnie, 2 for Talon, 1 for Volkman. We've got Jaden Walter saying, for Matty Butcher, yeah, good to get Matty on there. 3 for the Ibis, 2 for the Ibis, and 1 for Chris's 85 lower grades match worn jersey. So a bit of shout out there for the kit. I got some bad news from Chris Betty I'll get to after, because you had to ruin it today, didn't you, Chris?
Say it, Jono.
Luke Winley saying,
don't speak it into existence.
Maybe we strike that from the record, but there are some scheduling and ranking issues with the game next week that might mean we get some unfavorable referee matchups. But Luke Winley says 3 for Williams, good shout out there. He had a strong end to the game. 2 for Talon and 1 for Sam Rani. It's Griffin Coleman says Sam Rani, Tony, and the walkie-talkie rolls yelled into 10 minutes left. Another great shout out there as well. We did mention that Riles was barking into the walkie-talkie when the Eels weren't going to the Cowboys' right edge, and that certainly yielded some big profits. Any other loss? Yes, MM says Sam Rani, Joash, Talon De Silva, 3-2-1. And then Chris Betiol did ask Craig, and I put what I thought was in there. What was your score prediction? And it was something along the veins of like 38-30 or something like that, wasn't it? It was in the 30s on both teams. So you weren't too far removed. You weren't too far removed from the right call there. And then last vote, Shane says Sam Rani 3, Volkman 2, and Joash in the 1 there. So great votes across the board, guys. A lot of consistent vote getters there. I'm pretty confident Sam Rani was the runaway man of the match among the community voting and our voting there as well. And then obviously some strong vote getters among Volkman, Joash, Talon De Silva. Who else got there? I saw Junior and Mitch in a couple of capacities there. Jack Williams got a couple of votes. So no surprises that probably some of the, and obviously Tony Mattielli as well there. A lot of the strong performers been rewarded and acknowledged by the fan base today, which is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that just about brings things to a conclusion. A reminder again to people that we're going to cover the New South Wales Cup and Jersey Flegg tomorrow at Kellyville. If you're after some live rugby league, get up there. It's a great venue to watch football from, the grandstand right on the sideline there. Just a great venue and you're so close to the action. So different opponents for every grade this weekend.
Yeah, weird
so
weekend.
We've got the Jersey Flegg taking on the Fiji Silk Tails, and you've got the New South Wales Cup taking on the Bears. So it's split opponents, split venues over the weekend, split days over the weekend, but of course the Cumberland Throws covering it. And a reminder as well, we recorded a season review of junior reps with Steve Georgalis
coming
on Thursday
weekend, yes,
up at Kellyville. We will put that out on Sunday. So look for that on Sunday, because it was too much content today. There's too much content that will be happening tomorrow. So we'll put that in on Sunday. And I encourage everyone to listen, because the insights that we get from Steve Georgalis, not just talking about junior reps, but we have a bit of a chat with him about the NRLW as well. But he gives us some great insights, coaches' insight about what happens with players and what their goals are, those sorts of things. So we're very appreciative of Steve Georgalis. Chris, thank you for jumping on.
1.60s before we leave, and you mentioned that the interview with Georgalis is going to go live on Sunday. That's a great way to enjoy your Mother's Day. So I just want to shout out all the mothers on the TCT community and wish them a happy Mother's Day for Sunday as well. Well said, mate. It's your professionalism that makes sure that we get you on whenever we can, mate. It's very well done. John, thank you for navigating through all the technical issues.
Telstra.
TCT wouldn't happen without John's marvellous expertise. So thank you to everyone for joining us. Thank you to our sponsor, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan and Parramatta, and of course the home of the Eels, Parramatta Leagues Club. Fellas, we got through it. We got another win. That means I can say it. Go you mighty Eels. Para proud. Thank you everyone for being here.
Cheers, guys. See you next episode.
Thanks, fellas.